everyone, in this tutorial I'll teach you how to build a REST API with Express and Prisma. So Prisma is an object relational mapper that helps us write database queries in an easy way. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll CD into my desktop, but before that I have to open the terminal, and here I'll CD to the desktop. In my desktop, I'll create a folder. I'll have it as Prisma underscore REST underscore API. We'll cd into that directory, Prisma underscore REST underscore API, and I'll open it with VS Code. Okay. So I'll start by initializing my package.json. So I'll open the terminal. Okay, it's okay. Here in my terminal, I'll just do npm init-y. That will initialize my package.json file, like so. And to get started, I'll be using Express, and also I'll be using bcrypt. So we'll use bcrypt for hashing our password when we're doing authentication, and also I'll use JSON web token that will help with signing the token that we'll use for authentication. So first, I'll install those packages. I'll install Express. I'll install bcrypt for hashing, and also JSON web token for signing our tokens, like so. So here we'll continue and set up Prisma. So here I'll go to the prisma.io docs. Here I'll pick quick start, and we'll not be using TypeScript for this project. We'll not install these types. So what I'll do, I will install Prisma as a dev dependency. So I'll copy that and paste it in my terminal, like so. After installation, we initialize this Prisma CLI. So we'll copy this, but we'll not be using the SQLite. I'll show you how we can provision our database with Railway. So I'll just run npx prisma init to initialize our Prisma CLI. So here, after this is done, I'll copy that command, Okay, so we have a Prisma directory here. So if we check on our Prisma directory, our Prisma schema, we have our generator, which has a provider, Prisma client.js, and then we have our data source DB, and the provider is PostgreSQL, and the URL is, we don't have the URL yet, but it is stored in the .env file here. So here, I'll just remove this, and I'll proceed to Railway here, and we'll provision our database, which is a PostgreSQL database. So I'll click on provision. Okay, we'll wait. Okay, when that's done, I'll click, and I'll click on connect. Here, I'll copy this database URL. So copy here, copy value, and I'll paste it here. Okay, so now we can proceed and write our database models. So I'll start with the user model. So this application will be like a blog. We have the user and the articles. So I'll start by creating the user model and proceed to the article model. And here I'll show you how relationships work with Prisma. Have model, user, will have the ID which will be the type of integer ID, and I'll set the default to auto increment like so we should have at here. Okay, unknown. Okay, so in auto increment, let's write it auto like so I'll have the name for that user. I'll have it a string. I'll have the email. I'll have it a string, and I'll set it to be unique. I'll have the password to be a string, and I'll have this user to have articles. So this user will have articles which he or she creates. So they will be referenced to the article model which we are yet to create. So I'll do article model, then that article model, and here I'll have the ID. I'll set it to be integer. I'll have the ID, and I'll set the default to auto increment. So default should use at default. I'll set it to be auto increment. I'll have the title. I'll have it a string. I'll have the content to be the same as string. I'll have the author for this article, which will be the user, and we'll set a relation between this author in the article and the author, the user model. So we'll create a relation. We'll set the fields, which will be an array. And for this field, I'll populate the author ID, and the reference will be the ID here. So it will pick the user that matches the ID, okay? So so the author ID will be type of integer. So it will pick a match. It will pick the user that matches the author with the ID that matches to this author ID. So we'll have a created at, which will be date time. We'll set a default to now the current time. We'll have updated at to be the daytime. They'll set it to be updated at, which will be the time that this article was updated. So we have an error here because this article should match this, because we are referencing it to the model article. So like that. So the next step is to migrate. So we have to run this command. Let me check that command. So here we modeled our data. We have to run a migration to create your database tables with Prisma Migrate. So I'll copy this command and I'll paste it here in my terminal. So let's see. So we have railway schema public at container. So we have a migration file that was created and also a schema. So if we check for that, let's wait. It's taking a bit of time, but let's check the railway and see if we have some data. We don't yet. Let me reload. If I check the data, we have a Prisma migration. If I open that migration file, we have these fields for the migration. Okay, so now I'll proceed and create a source folder for our routes and controllers. So I'll create a folder called SRC, and here I'll create a server script. So I'll have it as index.js. So we'll use index to spin up our application, and here I'll create an express application. So I will not use require. I'll try and use import. So let me try and use that import. So we'll proceed to the package.json, and we'll try and use modular type for, okay. So here we'll not be using const express is equals to require. We'll not be using require, but import when we have it as module. But when we want to use require, you can have this as common. So choose module, and here I'll start by importing express from express. Okay, I'll create a folder, a variable called app, and this variable will create our express application like so. So the next thing I'll do, I'll set a port number for this application. I'll have it as 8000, and I'll listen to this port. So I'll do app.listen. I'll pass the port number and a callback like so. And here I'll just log. I'll say server started. So the next step, I will set up the script for running this application. So here I'll have a start script and a dev script. So what I mean is I'll have start. So npm run start will use node, and then the folder, which is src slash, we want the index. So we want to execute that file. That is the executable file. And then we want to set the dev. So when we do npm run dev, we'll use node mode to constantly check our application file. So we'll do src slash index.js like so. So here inside my src folder, I'll create our controller directory. So I'll create a controller directory. I'll proceed and create also our route folder, and proceed. I'll create our utils folder, Let me charge my laptop. Okay, so I'll create that folder. So this folder will contain our, or I should just call it middleware, and we'll see how we'll use it. So here I'll create the route for our controllers. So I'll have the article route and the user route. So I'll do article route.js. I'll also create the user route.js. So here in the article route, I'll have a router. I'll have an express router. So I'll import express, run express. I'll set that router. So I'll create a variable called router, which will be equal to express dot router. Okay, so we have to export this in order to use it. So I'll do export default and have that router. So I'll do the same for the user route. So I'll just copy this and paste it here in the user router. Okay, so we are done with the route. We are not yet done, but we are done with what we need to set up our route, to set up routing. So here in my controller, I will have, I'll create that file. So controllers, I'll create the article controller. So let me start with the article controller. Article controller.js, article controller.js, and here I'll create the function that will handle the logic. So I'll have that function as create article. So we take two methods. So we'll have that one. I'll create another one. We'll have it as get article. So this function will get a single article. We take the request and the response. Have a callback like so. I'll create another one for deleting our article. So export const delete article is equal to request response like so. I'll create another one for updating update article takes the request and the response. we also have the function that will get all our articles. For const get all articles, which will be take the request, the response, like so. Okay, so let's start with creating our article. So what we do here, we have to use the Prisma client. So we'll install the Prisma client. So let me search for that. npm Prisma client. So the Prisma client will help us interact with the Prisma models so that we can create and modify the models. So if we can check here, it is an auto-generated query builder that enables type-safe database access and reduce boilerplate. It is part of the Prisma ecosystem, provides database tools for data access, declarative data modeling, schema migration, and visual data management. So it is a tool that helps us interact with the Prisma models and helps us to modify the model and send data into it. So I'll copy this command and I'll just install the Prisma client. So, so I'll import that Prisma client. I'll import the Prisma client. So we have to do import Prisma, which will be coming from the Prisma client at Prisma client. Okay. Then we'll initialize it to start using it. We'll do new, then Prisma, okay, it should not be Prisma, but Prisma client, like so. So we have to do Prisma client, like so. So here we'll get the fields from the request body, such as the title and the content, which we have here. So we'll get that information from the client. So that information will be coming from the request, and the request has the body, which has the data, which we're getting from the client. So what I mean is, we'll destructure that information from the request body, which has the title and the content. So here, I'll have article be equal to await. So we'll have this as a synchronous. So I'll have this function as a synchronous, and we pass in await. Okay. So we do Prisma dot article dot create. So the article, I know you should you're thinking that we should pass article like this since we named our articles with uppercase. But when we are using Prisma clients, we have our models as lowercase. So if you check here, we have models with an uppercase, starting with an uppercase, but when you're using it with the Prisma client, we have it as lowercase. So we have it as lowercase, like so. So here we'll include the author, which is a relation to the user. So we must include it. We set it to true, and the data for this will be, we'll have the title to be equal to the title which we're getting from the request body. So I'll have the title, and we'll have the content which will be this content like so. Now, so the next thing I'll do is return this created article to the client. So we'll send a response with a status of 201, which means created, and we'll send a JSON. So I'll have it as article. Okay. So the next part is getting a single article. So when we get a single article, we'll be getting the ID for the requested article from the URL. So to get that ID from the URL, we use the request.params. So the request has something we call params, which contains the ID. So to get that ID, we'll use destructuring, and pass request.params. Okay. So I'll create a variable which will contain that single article. So we'll do const article to create that article. To get that article, that is, await, then Prisma dot article dot find unique. Okay, find unique, where we use the where clause, where the ID matches to the ID which we passed in here. Okay, so we should have this function as asynchronous. We pass async. So we must pass this to an integer. So I'll pass that ID to an integer since it is coming as a string. So I'll do a pass there, and we'll include that author for that article. So we'll do include, and I'll pass author to be equal to true, like so. So I'll check if this article exists. So I'll say if not article, I'll return a response with status of 404. Then I'll attach JSON. I'll do error to be the key, and it will have a message with article not found. Okay. Else, if there is an article that was found, we want to return that article. So I'll just do return response.json with that article, like so. So we'll work on delete functionality for the article. So here I'll get the ID for the article that we want to delete from the request.params. So I'll have this as async. So async await. What we do, we say Prisma dot article dot find unique. So yeah, actually what I'll do, so to delete an article, we have to check if the article, so the article contains the author. So we have to check if the author or the user who is deleting this article is the owner of this article, right? So we should get that article, then we check if the author ID matches to the user that is deleting this article. So to show you, I'll create a variable called article. I'll have a weight. I'll set Prisma dot article. So we'll find that article that we want to delete. Dot find unique where the ID, pass it to an integer, percent ID. Then we'll include that author. So we'll include that author, which is a foreign key to the user. We'll set that to true. Okay. So when we request for the article, it will populate with the author who or the user who created this article. So we'll check if not article, if the article was not found, we'll do a 44. Okay, we'll send a status of 44. So we'll do response to status of 44. We'll send JSON. We'll have an error as the key. Then we'll say article not found for the value, like so. All right. So now here I'll have a comment. I'll check that the authenticated user is the author of the article. So here we'll get the ID for the authenticated user, and then we'll check if the author in the article matches with this. Else, will not authorize that user to delete this article since he's not the owner. So to do that, we have an if. We do article dot author ID is not equal to request dot user ID. So the request.user ID is the authenticated user, which we don't have yet. Okay, so I'll show you. So for that, we return a response.status of 403. Okay, that means not authorized. So we'll have JSON, and I'll have an error. You do not have permission to delete this article. Else, if the article has the owner, we'll proceed and delete that article. So I'll have a wait here, and I'll do Prisma dot article dot delete. Takes an object. We say where the ID we pass that ID to integer, like so, ID here. After we delete, we send a message. So I'll just return response.json. with message article deleted successfully. Successfully. Don't know if that is the spelling. Okay. So we'll proceed and update an article. So we'll get that ID for the article. ID. We get it from the params, request of params. Here we do create a variable. We have it as article. Then say await Prisma dot article dot find unique where the ID matches to the ID which you're getting from the params. So we have to have this as a thing. Also, we'll include the author for that article. Author will have it as true. So here we'll check if the article exists. So I'll say if not article call will return response.status. We'll have it as 404. For not found, have JSON error. We'll say article not found. Else, we will do the same like we did here. We'll check that the authenticated user is the author of the article. So I'll just copy this, then I'll paste it here. So instead of article deleted, I'll say article updated, and here we'll not use delete but update. Update will have some data which will be coming from the request body. So we'll do title, which will be set from the body title like so. Then we'll do the same for the content, request.body.content. Okay. Then we'll also include the author for that article. So we'll say include, say author, set it to true. Then we'll send JSON. So here we'll send JSON like we did right here. So it's okay, I'll not have a message, but I'll send JSON as the updated article. So here I'll assign a variable, call it updated article will be equal to. So here we'll send this article to be set to the updated article. So we're remaining with the functionality to get all the articles. So I'll have this as asynchronous, async. I'll create a variable called articles. Articles will be equal to await Prisma dot articles dot we use find many. find many, we include the author for each article. So we say author, let's have it as true. Okay, after this I'm gonna send this article as JSON, so I'll say response.json and I'll send these articles like so. So the next thing we are remaining with is setting the route for these controller functions. So what I'll do here, I'll import those functions from the controller. So I'll say from the article, from the routes folder, go to the controller and use the article.controller.js file. So you must end with the .js extension, or else you will face some errors. So I'll start by importing the create article function, get article, delete the article, update article, and the last one will be get all the articles. Okay, so let's create the routes to handle those. So we'll do router dot route dot route. So I'll have slash article, or I'll just do create, and it will be a post method, and the handler for this will be create article. Then I'll have another one for getting a single article by ID. So I'll do router.route and I'll say slash the ID as the param. We'll do a get request. So this one will get a single article. Get article. We'll have another route. Router.route. So this route will delete a single article. So we'll do slash remove, then we pass the ID for that article that we want to delete. So we'll have delete method and delete article handler. We'll pass it there. We'll have another router.route, and this one will update the article. So let's do slash update slash ID for that article. The method for this will be a puts request. We'll do a put. For this one, I'll do update articles. And we have the last one, router.route. I'll have it as slash get, then here we'll get all the articles. So we are done with that. So let's proceed and create the model for the user and set the controllers and the routes. So here in the schema, we'll create another model. Oh, we did create the model already. So what we need is the controller. So here we'll create the user controller .js file, and here we need to import JSON web token for hashing our passwords. So we'll import the JSON web token. So we'll import we'll import JWT from the JSON web token that we installed. I'll also use bcrypt. I'll import bcrypt. We'll use bcrypt to hash our password. So we import bcrypt from bcrypt.js. Okay, and we'll need the Prisma client. So we'll use Prisma client to modify changes in the database or to add data to the database. So we'll import the Prisma from at Prisma client, Prisma from import the Prisma client. Okay, I'll create the function to register our users. So I'll do export const register user. It will be asynchronous. I'll pass in rec and res method. Then here we'll get the name, the email, and the password from the request.body. So I'll destructure the name and the email from the request.body. I'll create a salt. So we'll create a variable called salt. Okay, let me bcrypt.genSaltSync. So the salt will be used together with the password, this password, to hash it. Okay, so let me show you genSaltSync, and here we pass the number of rounds. So we pass 10, which is the recommended value for hashing passwords. We pass 10. Then we create a variable. I'll have it as hashed password. So this one will contain the hashed version of the password. It will be asynchronous, so I'll pass await. Then here we'll do bcrypt.hash. So we take in the first thing that hash takes is, if we check, it is not showing. Okay, we pass a string, which is the password we are getting from the request body, and the salt. Okay, so here we'll get that password and we'll pass the salt, like so. Okay, then we'll check if this user exists. Okay, so we'll create a variable called user, which will contain the user. We'll get this from Prisma, so we have to pass await Prisma, lowercase Prisma dot, okay, we forgot to do something here. So I have to create a constant variable Prisma and have it as new Prisma client, like so. So here, now I can find this user. We do Prisma.user.find unique. Okay, find unique where gonna do where the email is set to the email that we're getting from the request body. So because the key and the value are the same here, what we can do, we can just assume one, we remain with the value. So if this user exists, that means the user is already registered. So what we do, we return a response with a status of 400, which is a bad request, and we attach a JSON. We attach .json with a message user already exists. Okay, otherwise that means the user does not exist. So we'll create a variable called, we'll have it as created user, which will be set to await prisma.user.create. So here it takes in an object with the data. I'll have the name to be the name the email to be the email, and the password to be the hashed version of the password. So remember, we created a variable called hashed password, so I'll pass it here, hashed password. Okay, then I return with a status of 200, not 200, but 201 for created. So I'll just return response.status of 201 JSON, send JSON with the user who will be the created user, like so. Okay, we'll proceed and create a login controller. So I'll create a function, have it as login user, have it as a sync, pass in the two method request and the response. Okay, like so. So here we'll do the same like we did here. Get the user data from the request body. So I'll just paste it here and remove the name since we will not need it to log in the user. We'll continue and check if the user exists. So I'll create a variable, have it as user, have await prisma.chooser.find unique, like so. We pass the where clause, we check if the email, pass the email. Okay, so if this user exists, what we'll do, we'll check if the password matches the one in the database. So I'll create a constant variable, have it as compare password. So we use bcrypt. It has a method called compare sync. So it takes in the string and the hashed version. So the hash is the one that is stored in the database, and the string is the one we are getting from the request.body. So here we'll pass in the password, then the hashed version of the password. So we do user.password, like so. So if this password matches, so if compare password, so this will return a boolean value. So we check if that boolean value is true, compare password. What we do, we create a payload. So the payload will be used to sign in the token. So we create that variable called payload. It takes in the user ID, which will be the user.id. Okay. So now we'll proceed and sign this token, which will create a token which will be used for authentication of the user. So here we'll use jwt.sign, takes in the payload as the first value, and then the secret or private key, which will be used for hashing the password, then the options. Okay, so if I can show this, we pass in the payload, then we pass the secret value, which will be used for hashing, not for hashing really, but for signing the token. So we have to create that secret. So if you check our .env, we'll create that secret value. So here
I'll create that secret value, we'll have it as JWT secret. You can have it as any value you want, but make sure it is secure. So I'll have it as that value. So here in my user controller, we'll use the process.env.jwt secret to access that value that we have created. So jwt secret, like so. So the other option, which it takes in the options here. So if we check, we passed in the secret key, then we pass the options. So the option for this, I'll have it as expires in. So I'll set it to expire in 30 days. 30 days. Okay. So you can have it, you can have yours as, you can set it to take some hours. Okay. So the next thing we pass is the callback token. So if we get an error, so here we get the error or the token. So I'll have an if inside the callback, and I'll say if error or not the token. Then we return a response status of 403. 403. 403, yeah. Or should we do 401? JSON. Have it as a token not found. Else, that means there is a token. So I'll just return response.status, have it as 200 for success, have JSON, takes in an object, have the token as the token, like so. I can just replace one, like so. Okay, so let's create another function to get a user. Okay, a user who is authenticated. So to do that, we create a function, export const get user. I'll have it as a thing. Then we pass request response. I proceed and create that variable. Await Prisma dot user dot find unique user. Find unique. We have a where clause, and here we'll pass in the ID. We have request dot user ID. So I'll have I'll create a function after here in the middlewares that will verify this token, then return the user that was sent to the payload. Then this user that was stored here will access that data for that user using the request object, and the request object will have a user ID. So now it will be easier to access that information when we hit the route to get the user. So it will make sense in a while. Just wait. Okay, so here we'll check if this user does not exist, then I'll return response.status of 404 not found. Okay, we'll send some JSON and have error, okay, error user not found, like so. Else, if there was an user, we'll do response.json and we'll send that user here. Okay, we'll create another function to delete the user. Export const. Okay, it's getting long. Okay, I'll try and I'll use what we have here in the articles to delete that user. Yeah, we'll copy this. Copy this. Okay, so here, delete user will not need this ID. I'll have this at delete user. Replace article with user. Okay, so here I can just get rid of this. Let me get rid of all of that. Wait. Okay, so here we'll do request.user_id. Okay. So define unique. Okay. So to avoid any user deleting a user, okay, so the user can just pass in the ID and delete. We don't want that. So in the user route, the route that will be used to delete the user, I'll have an ID and we'll check that ID if it matches the request.user_id. So to do that, we'll get that ID from the request.params. Okay, I'll have that ID and we'll check if request.user_id is equal to the ID, then we'll delete that user. Okay, so we'll do user delete the ID, right? Okay, I'll have another condition to check if this user exists. So to do that, we'll have a const user will be equal to await prisma dot find dot user dot find unique where, sorry for that, where the ID is set to the ID here, this ID. So if this user exists, if this user does not exist, if not user, we'll have a 44. So I'll just copy this, paste it here. 44. Okay, we get the ID, we check if the user does not exist. Okay, so here instead of doing request.user_id, we can just have user.id. Okay, like so. So yeah, now if request.user, so we can just have this inside that condition. So yeah, so let's try and update a user. Update a user, but before we update, we should have this as 403, and I'll have the message as you do not have permission to update this user. Okay, let's create a function to update the user. So I'll create a function. So we'll do export, or I can just use this. We check for that user if it exists. So we check here. Yeah, you can use this. So I'll copy this function. I'll have this as update user. Update user. We check if for this user, if does not exist, we send an error. Okay. If he exists, we check if the user ID matches to the one that we are getting from the params. And instead of saying article, we'll have this as user updated. And this one will be user deleted. User deleted. So here we do we'll have this as prisma.user.update, where the ID matches to the request.user ID. Okay, and then we'll have data for the emails, for the fields that we want to update. We want to update the name, we want to update the email, we will not update the password. Okay, then we'll send JSON. Yeah, so this will return the user that was updated. So I'll have a variable for that user. Just do const user will be equal to await prisma.user is. So here I'll have an object user which will be set to that user. So you can just have it as user. I'll create another function to get all the users. So here, if I check here on this data, we need to have the email and the name. So we'll get that data from the request body. So I forgot to have that. So we have the name and the email from the request.body. And yeah, I think you're done with that. So let's create that function to get all the users. So this one will be easy. Export const get all users will be equal to async request response. We create a variable to store the users. Const users will be equal to await prisma dot user dot find many. Then we include the articles, since it is a relationship. It is a relationship, if you remember here, this one. So we'll proceed and return that list of users, or that array. So we'll do return response.status 200 attach JSON. We'll do users. So I'll have users there. Okay, so we are done with the article controller and the user controller. So we'll set up our routes and start testing our API. So here, I'll start NodeMon. So if you don't have NodeMon, you can just install it globally. You'll do npm install nodemon-g, like so. So if we check, I'm not sure about that. Let me check. NodeMon. We do npm install -g nodemon. Yeah, it is okay. So I have already installed nodemon globally. So I'll use this command to start our development server. So here we'll do npm run dev. Okay. npm run dev. Yeah, server started. So now we'll import the controller methods inside our user routes. So let's start with the article route. So we had already done that. So we'll have the user route. So here we'll import those methods. So we'll do import from we are inside the router, so we'll have to do controller the user controller.js. Don't forget to add this extension or else you'll get an error. So we'll import that, get user, delete user, update user, get all users, and the login user. So here inside we'll set those routes. So we'll do router.route this path will be used to register. It will be a post request, and we'll pass that controller method. Then we'll create another route, router.route. We'll create a login route, so /login. It will be a post request, okay, and login user. We'll create another route, router.route route. So this one will get the user who is authenticated. So we'll do .get user. We'll create another route, so router.route /delete. Then we pass in the ID for the user that we want to delete. We'll have it as a delete, okay, then delete user. We'll have another route, router.route. We'll have it as /update. We get that ID. It will be a put request update user. We'll proceed and create another route to get all the users. So we'll do router.route. It will be sorry, /users /all. It will be a get request. So get all the user. Okay, so we'll proceed and create a middleware which will check if the user is registered. So here, this route is accessed. Right now, this route can be accessed by anyone. That means anyone can delete the user. So we'll create a middleware that will check if this user is the authenticated user. So here inside the middleware, I'll create okay, let me show you. I'll create, what do we call it? Yeah, verify token. You can have it as check token, whatever you want. I'll have mine as verify token .js. So here we have to use the JWT package. So I'll import that module JSON web token. Then we'll create the function for that. So export const authenticated token. Authenticated token will be equal to we pass in 3 methods: request, response, and next. So what next does, if this is executed successfully, if we get that user that we are getting from the token, we'll pass it to the next route handler. Okay, so it basically means that pass it to the next operation. Pass it to the next operation. So we'll have an auth header which will get that token. So to request.headers .authorization like so. Then here, if this does not exist, auth header, if it does not exist, we return a response.status 401. I'll have JSON with the error. I'll say authentication is required. Else, if we have this header authorization, we'll get the token from the headers. Okay, from this auth header. So I'll create a variable, have it as token. Then we want to split this token, auth header dot split. We want to split it with a space, and then I'll get the second value. Okay, so what it means is that we'll have a bearer here as a string, bearer with a token which will look something like this. So the result, when we split it, will be an array. It will have the first value at index 0 as bearer, and the second value at index 1 as the token. So here we are getting this value. Here we are getting this token. So yeah. So now I'll have a try catch block here. Here in my try block, we'll verify that token. So I'll create a value called decoded, and I will use jwt.verify. We pass that token and the secret that was used to hash. So the secret that was used to hash will be the same secret key that will be used to verify that token. So process.env, we had it as JWT secret, if you remember here. when we logged in the user we created here when we signed the token. Okay, so yeah, we decode it. So we'll create the request.user ID to be equal to the decoded dot user ID, which we had it as our payload here. Yeah, here. So we're getting this value which had the key of user ID. So we'll proceed and pass next. Okay, so here inside the catch block, I'll respond with a status of respond.status. I'll pass a 401 status code. We'll have JSON, have the user, not the user, but the error as invalid token. Okay, now here when we want to delete the user, we'll check for that user if is authenticated. So we have to pass verify token, which will check for that user. So here in the delete function, we checked if the request.user ID. So the request.user ID will get it from the middleware, this middleware. So I hope that is understood. So now we can proceed and pass that. So we'll do verify token, verify token, verify token. Where are we not? Oh, we had it out as authenticated token. So now instead of doing verify token, we'll have authenticated token. We'll do the same for getting the user that is authenticated. We'll pass that middleware. When we log in the user, no, we don't need that there. When we update the user, we need it. Okay. So we'll also pass it to the article routes. When we want to remove the article, we have to check if the user that is deleting the article, that article is the owner. So we'll have to import this. We'll have to import that. When we update the article, we'll also need that authenticated token. When we, yeah, I think that's it. So now we can pass this route inside our index. So I'll use app.choose. We'll use express.json so that we can use JSON. We can send JSON from Postman to our server. Then we'll import those routes. So let's do import user routes from dot slash the router slash the article route.js. I'll copy this route and have it as article routes. User route. Yeah, we have to replace this with user. So we had it as user with an uppercase U. User routes, article routes. Yeah, like so. .js. So here we'll have the middleware for that routes. So we'll have user, which will be set to /API /version1 slash article. Then the route, so we head it as article route. We create another one for the user, so API version 1 slash article slash user, that is user routes, like so. So we are done with the routes. So we can start testing. I'll use Postman to test our routes. So if you don't have Postman, you can just install it on their on this page, postman.com. So let's start testing our routes. So I'll open Postman. Inside Postman, I'll create a collection. I'll have it as Prisma. I'll create a folder. I'll have it as articles. I'll create another folder. Add another folder. I'll have it as user. So inside the article folder, I'll create a request. I'll name it as create article. Create article, like so. It is a post request. http://localhost port 8000 /API /version 1 /article /create. Okay, that is our route. So we'll proceed to body here. I will select row and choose text and choose JSON. So to create the article, we need the title and the content. So I'll have my title here, my first title. I'll have content to be simply content. And do we need the headers? Yeah. So if you check here on the schema, inside the articles, we are passing this author ID. So the author ID is the user ID. So when we create, let me check. When we create, we pass in the title, the content. So here, we'll let me check. Yeah, I'll have that author ID to be request.user ID that is coming from the middleware. And to access this request.user ID, we have to pass that middleware. So authenticate token. So now to create an article, we need a user. So I'll create a user first. So I'll have that request. Create user, it will be a post request. http://localhost port 8000 /API /version 1 /user /register. I'll have row, have this as JSON. Okay, we need the name for the user. I'll just have it at admin. Email will be admin@gmail.com. We'll have password as admin 123. So if I send this, you are getting a 404 not found, because here it should be user. So if I send this again, we should get that user. So yeah, we get that user with the ID of 1. If you check railway here, if you check railway, click articles, we get that user. So okay, so we'll proceed and copy this ID, log in this user. Okay, we'll proceed and log in this user. So I'll create that route, login user. It will be a post request to copy this URL, paste it here. So here I have it /user/login. To log in, we need the name, the email, and the password. So I'll copy this, paste it here. Let's expand this a little bit. Okay, so we need the email and the password. So I'll get rid of the name and send this. We get a token, so I'll copy this token and we'll use this token to create that article. So this token will be verified and we'll get the user from this token. So the payload is stored in this token. So we verify it and we get that user. So here, inside our headers, I'll have my header as authorization. We'll have a bearer, then the token. So now if I create that user, let me check. Yeah, we get that user with that information. So this author, you're getting this author from, let me show you. Remember here, we used include to populate that user data. Okay, so let me save this and create a route to get a single article. So here I'll have the new request as get article. So the route for this will be copy this /article, then the ID will have the ID as 1. It will be a get request. If I send this, we should get that article. So now okay, so we're getting an error. If I check my terminal, Prisma. Okay, so let's check on that error. Prisma.article. What might be the problem? Request of params. Find unique ID. What request of params article? Let me try that again. Okay, let us try that again. What could be the issue? Oh, we are getting that article. Here's the article. So I don't know where the issue was with the first attempt. So we'll create another route to remove Okay, we'll before removing an article, we'll start by updating. So removing the article will be the last thing. So I'll create that request. I have update article. I'll copy this, Control C, Control V, put, we want to update, so it will be /article /update, then the ID, row, have this as JSON. I'll update the title. So here for the title, I'll have this as updated title. If I send this, authentication is required. Okay, so we'll copy that token. So here when we create the article, copy this bearer token and paste it here inside my headers. Authorization, bearer. Okay, we'll just replace this. Now if I send this, we should update. You're getting an empty object. Okay, so let's see where the issue is. When we update the article, getting this article. Oh, yeah, you're getting that article. If the article does not exist, article.author ID. If article, okay. So what we did, it was a silly error. We should have here updated, not update article, but updated. Yeah, since we have our constant name here as updated article. So that was the issue. So if we start and test it again, we'll send this request. So let's see if it works. Yeah, we get the updated version of the article. So let's create another route to get all articles. So we'll create the route to get all articles. Get all articles. I'll just copy this, paste it here, /article get. If I send this, you should get all the articles like so. So here we are showing the password. It is not a good thing to show the password to the client. So what I'll do, I'll set this password to undefined when we get the article. So inside the article controller, we'll select the field that we want to show. So I'll use select. I'll have the ID to true. So this one will be shown to the client. I'll have the name set to true. I'll have the email set to true. And the password, I'll set it to false. Now, if I send this request, we get the ID, the name, and the email without the password. So Yeah, we're done with that. So the next thing we are remaining with is to delete the article. So I'll create that route. I'll name it as delete article. I'll have the method as delete. I'll copy this update route, paste it here, replace update with delete. We had it as remove, not delete. I'll have it as remove, and I'll copy the bearer token from the headers. Copy this, paste it here in the headers. Have the key as authorization. Now if I send this request, we should remove that article. So we get article deleted successfully. Now let's proceed to the user. So we had created the route to create the user and log in the user. Let's work on getting the authenticated user, deleting the user and updating the user. So here inside this folder, I'll create a request to delete the user, delete. I'll copy this URL. I'll have it slash delete, then the ID of that user. So what I'll do, I'll create another user. I'll have it as admin2@gmail.com. Send that user. Okay. So here we'll log in that user and copy the token. Okay. So here inside the headers, copy that token for that user. Since you can't delete a user with another user token, we must have his own token to delete the user. And I'll have the ID for that user. If we check on the ID, when we created the user, the ID is 2. So I'll have 2 there. Now if I send this, we get an error. Let's check what is the error. Got invalid value 2 on Prisma. So we are getting this as a string, so we must pass it to an integer. So to do that, we must pass this to ID, pass in the ID. Now if I send this,
So you do not have permission to delete this user. So let's check our token and see if it is the valid token. So if I check this token, I'll copy this token, bearer, then paste it there. We still get the same error. So I'll proceed to this controller, and so that means that the user does not exist. So I'll change this ID to B1 since the user created here has the ID of 1. So I'll have to change that ID, but for yours might be different because I changed mine when I was not recording. So you'll just change the ID to the user that you want to delete. So I want to delete the user with the ID of 1. So now if I send this request, I should get that message. So the user was deleted. So now we'll create the request to handle user update. So I'll say update user. I'll create another user with the email admin. I'll send that. I'll log in this user. So I'll just copy this and paste it here to get the token. I'll remove the name and send this. Now we get the token. I'll copy this token and paste it here. So I'll have the key as authorization bearer, then the token. Now here I'll have my URL to handle that operation. So I'll copy this URL or delete and paste it here and change the get method to be put. So now I'll have this as update, and the user that we want to update has the ID of 1. So now I'll have this as row, change this to JSON. Now I'll change the name to be updated name. I'll have the email. I'll not update the email, but just the name. Now if I send this, we get an error. So if I check this error, we have to pass the ID. We are getting the ID as a string, so we must pass it to an integer. So here in my route handlers, not my route handlers, but my user controller, I will pass this ID to be an integer. So we'll have a value, pass that ID to an integer. Now if I restart my server, and send this again, we should update that user. So you do not have permission to update this user. So if I check the ID, we are updating the user with the ID of 2. So we'll change this ID to be 2. Now if I send that request, we should update that user. So we get the updated user credentials. Okay, so we are remaining with getting all users. So let's try that. We'll create that request. Get all users. It will be a get request to http 8000 version 1 /user/users. Now if I send this request, we are getting an error because we have typed the wrong URL. So if I check that URL again, here /users/all, if I send this request again, we should get the users. So let me create another user. Okay, I'll have the name as Joseph, the email as joseph@gmail.com, and the password to be Joseph123. Now if I send this, we create that user. Now if I send the request to get all the users, we should have that new user. So you are getting Joseph here with the ID of 3. Okay, so we have deleted the user, we have updated the user. Now we are remaining with getting the authenticated user. So to do that, we'll create another request, have the name as get auth user. I'll copy this request URL, paste it here. If I send this, it will not work because we need to pass the bearer token. So here we'll copy the bearer token. So I'll copy this bearer token, paste it here in the auth header. We pass the key as authorization and copy that bearer token. So if I send this, we should get this user. So I don't think we are remaining with anything else. Thank you guys for watching. I know it was a long video, but you sticked around, hopefully. So if you like the video, click the like button and subscribe to my channel because I'll be posting tutorials every week. So thank you guys. See you in the next video. Bye.